We finally left Golden Gate Park for this Western Neighborhoods Project history moment brought to you by Joey Yee. And okay, we are in another park, I'll give you that, but we're here for a really special reason. I'm here to tell you about the oldest building in the parkside. It might even be the oldest building in all of southwestern San Francisco. And can you guess what building that is? We're gonna find out, me and my buddy Charlie here, our fluffiest junior historian. We're here in Sigmund Stern Grove, just off 19th Avenue and Slope Boulevard, to talk about the Trocadero Inn. The story of the Trocadero actually starts with the story of the Green brothers. There were 6 of them to be specific, and they came to San Francisco at the end of the 1840s and settled on, well, actually they squatted on land just north of Lake Merced on an area that was a Mexican land grant called Rancho Laguna de la Merced. And they farmed the area. They also opened some small bars and several roadhouses. Roadhouses were some of the first businesses to pop up here in the western neighborhoods. People would stop here when they were out on their Sunday drives to rest, relax, probably have a beer, maybe do some gambling, because this was a really long ways out from city proper. Most of the brothers sold their land to the Spring Valley Water Company in the 1870s, but William Henry Green held on to his property. He and his sons, Leopold and George, continued to farm the area, and then in 1892, George had the brilliant idea to open the Trocadero Inn. This area was perfect. It's secluded, filled with foliage that the Green family had planted over the years, and George envisioned a grand resort with cabins all around that could be rented, even a deer park that could be hunted by high society type folks, which is what he initially tried to market it towards. However, the clientele that actually showed up was more of a roadhouse crew, interested in day drinking and probably some more gambling. So instead, George decides to lease the property, and in come the sporting men. You have beer gardens, you've got dancing parties. They even bring in some tamed bears as sort of a novelty here. And yes, they did escape, in case you were wondering. The Troc even served as an after-party spot for bicycle clubs who were going through the west side and stopping here. It was here in March of 1907 that notorious political boss Abe Roof hid out during his corruption trial, which started after the 1906 earthquake and fire daylighted a ton of double dealings that Abe Roof was involved in. And there's a persistent rumor that there are bullet holes up in the door that stem from a dangerous takeover of Abe Roof. The truth is, that's not really the truth. He was holed up here for a few days, and when police arrived and they walked in, they found him surrounded by magazines, which he'd been reading to keep himself entertained, and they peacefully arrested him. George Green thought about selling the Trocadero and the 19 acres of land that surround it, but instead he leased it to his neighbor, a super awesome woman named Mabel Hawkins, the wife of Charles Hawkins, and they lived across the street where the Scottish Rite Temple is today. In 1910, the Trocadero becomes a refuge for women. Mabel creates the Women's Outdoor Club and establishes Girl Pioneers of America that runs a summer camp in the valley starting in about 1912. The Troc also hosted a school of employment for women so that they could learn marketable skills that they could use to support themselves. And at the same time, you have suffragette meetings happening here and respectable dances. This is all happening around the same time that women earned the right to vote here in California in 1911. That's 9 years ahead of the rest of the country. By 1916, though, the Troc is largely uninhabited. In the 1920s, there were a few proposals to turn the area into a country club, but ultimately George Green sold the property to the Sigmund Stern Recreation Fund, administered by Rosalie Stern, in 1931. She granted the property to the city's Recreation and Park Department, and that's why it's open and available for public use today as part of Sigmund Stern Grove, which was named in honor of her late husband. Now there's one final super duper awesome fact about the Trocadero. In the 1930s, as it was transferring over to the city's Recreation and Park Department, it was remodeled by renowned architect Bernard Maybach, who some of you may know also designed the Palace of Fine Arts and numerous other amazing buildings in the Bay Area. Even with all of this awesome history, the Trocadero is not a designated historic landmark. Not by the state, not by the city. Can you believe that, Charlie? And in fact, the Parkside District doesn't have a single designated historic landmark either. So I really hope that that changes soon, and I hear some folks are working really hard to make that happen. Well, thank you for joining us, Charlie. Thank you for joining us as well. This has been another Western Neighborhoods Project History Moment brought to you by Joey Yee. Now, if there's a subject that you want us to cover, let us know in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.